Serious, what is the creepiest, strangest, scariest experience you ever had in your life? I lived in North Chicago in the 90s. I was the only white person in my neighborhood. I didn't have a car, so I'd take the bus to work and back, but at night, the drop-off was a few blocks from my neighborhood and I'd walk home in the dark. I'm female. Never had a problem. Any day. During the daytime, I was walking back from getting some groceries and a cop car pulled up beside me. White officer, asking what I was doing. Told him I was walking home. He insisted the neighborhood wasn't safe and that I should get in the car. There is no way that officer was assigned to that neighborhood. I'd met the other officers on patrol, no idea who this officer was. But he kept insisting that I get in the car and kept following me at a slow speed. Honestly, the vibes were not good. I went to a random house, told the officer I was home, and opened the door and walked in. It wasn't my home, didn't know the people that lived there. They looked so surprised that this white girl was suddenly in their house. Told them what was going on, and even they were like, WTF, no white officers are assigned to this area. They let me stay with them in the house for few hours until the officer left and then walked me home. I was getting ready to leave work for the night and the night manager, who had just returned from Iraq, came out to smoke. I remember walking out the door of the Walgreens, feeling utterly terrified, and I turned immediately back into the store. When the manager came back inside, I said, I need you to walk me all the way to my car. Something's not right. He was like, yeah, sure. So he walked with me all the way to my car, checked it, shut my door, and he watched me drive away. I found out 2 days later that somebody had gruesomely raped and killed a woman in the parking lot across the street from my store on the night I had my manager walk me to my car. Holy fuck. That was almost me. This is terrible, but I had a really messed up childhood. My parents were not together and I was being traded off every weekend. It was my dad's weekend and I went over to his house. He was acting super weird the whole day, but I didn't notice it much as a little kid until I looked back on it. I remember him taking me and my little sister to run errands with him. He ran into different places in me and my sister played in the back seat. He stopped at a friend's house and came back flustered and angry and sped out of the driveway. The next couple hours were normal and we were fine, but our dad was super anxious. I remember it being dark outside when he told me and my little sister to get in the car. We drive to a rundown motel on a bad side of town and get out of the car. I asked him what we were doing there and he told me we were hanging out with some of his friends. I didn't think anything of it and we went into the motel room. It was a small room with one bed and a jacuzzi tube beside the tube. Our dad started drinking with a group of guys in the hotel and he told us we could go swimming in the hot tube. We didn't have bathing suits, so he had us in there with just underwear and a t-shirt. After a couple minutes he left without saying anything to us. I asked the guys where my dad went and he told us he would be back in a couple hours. Something in my 7-year-old brain didn't feel right about the situation. Any of the guys started talking to my sister and I and acting really friendly. He told us he wanted to get in the hot tube with us and started to undress completely, exposing himself to us. He tried to get really close to us and I held my 3-year-old sister close. This man was completely naked in a hot tube with 2 little girls and our dad wasn't there to stop it. I was really scared and acted like I was taking my sister to the bathroom and went out the front door of the motel, still wet and in our underwear. I held my sister while she cried and we walked down the hallway away from the room. Luckily there was a lady in the hall and she asked if I was lost. I asked her if I could call my mom on her phone to come and get us. Thankfully my mom came right away and after that my dad lost visitation rights. I'm so glad that they forced us to memorize our parents' phone number at school as well. I'm grateful that woman was in the hallway before one of those guys found us. Update. I just found out yesterday he got arrested for domestic battery. I hope he gets what he deserves in prison. I moved into my current home 3 years ago. We originally planned to not have a TV in the bedroom and have a cool hangout spot in the main living room and the kids had a separate den. This worked out well for maybe the first 6 months to a year. I started to not like watching TV at night in the living room. There was something wrong with the lighting in there and it just bothered me. It felt like the normal shadows in there were constantly moving. After a few weeks of just being quiet about that and the weird bumps and noises, I finally said something to my so. He seemed relieved that I could see it too. It always looked like someone was walking back and forth behind us when we were on the couch and sometimes we'd see the silhouette of something reflected on the TV. Now we avoid the living room at night but have noticed a weird dark shadow in the shape of a tall person in our bedroom doorway. It never fully comes into the room but it really creeps us out. Our pets react to it too. I love rain and thunderstorms. My mom knew this and on rainy days she'll let me stand out on our metal deck. One day when I was 5, I was standing on the deck and the rain quickly became a thunderstorm. I said nothing because she would immediately pull me in. Lighting started flashing all around me. Suddenly there was a huge flash of light in front of my eyes and the loudest boom I've ever heard. I squatted down and closed my eyes. I could see white even though my eyes were closed, my ears were ringing and I can smell ozone. I swear lightning struck right in front of me. After what felt like a few minutes I heard my name and opened my eyes. Mom was calling for me to go inside. The weird thing is the smell of ozone was gone and everything just looked normal. The next day I went outside to the spot and found the deck deformed, but it looked like it had been painted over from years ago. I'm really not sure what happened. Did I just make all of that up in my head? So, I thought we had a ghost in our house when I was a kid. I don't remember exactly when it started, but my little sister was the first to say something like, there was someone in the window last night. We would hear scratching at the window, we would hear crunching of the leaves outside, footsteps close by. Possums, my mum said. Don't worry about it. After a few months, clothes from the washing line went missing. Mostly underwear. This went on for over a year. It's just mixed up in the wash, my mum said. I started waking up at night just knowing someone was there. Hearing breathing, often heavy, and just knowing that I must keep pretending to be asleep. Soon enough footsteps would be fading down the hallway and I would just sorta go back to sleep. I would wake up to this pretty randomly, sometimes a few times a week, sometimes once a month. It went on for a while. There's a ghost, I thought. Getting up to go to the bathroom at night I always felt this panic, but weirdly this instinct to act calm. I bet someone died in the bathroom, I thought. The scariest incident happened one morning when I got up early for school, but more importantly, for cartoons. As I sat in the lounge room I just had the sense that someone was there, just outside the door. I remember so clearly how sick I felt, how frozen with sheer terror. And then the front door opened and closed. Someone running away. I didn't think. I didn't mention it. About 2 years after that my mum called the police. Guess what? Not a ghost. It was a friend of one of my older siblings. There was no reason to suspect him. No red flags. But it was him. It gets weird after that, but that's an entirely different story I don't feel comfortable sharing. Buy security cameras. Believe in ghosts if you want and be as open-minded as you want, but please be just as open-minded to the possibility of these eerie feelings being because of an actual human standing over you at night, hiding in your house and moving your stuff around. Just do something to protect yourself. I'm not sure if I'd call it creepy, but it's definitely strange and weird. My mom passed away in 2007 from an overdose of heroin. She has 5 sons, and I'm really close with my oldest brother. I lived with him and his wife and my niece and nephew for a few years while finishing college. While living with them a couple years back, this is maybe 2016 or 2017, I had a dream about my mom one night. I was sitting in this very old mansion in a hallway, beautiful wood floor interiors, wooden furniture, incredible paintings on the walls, etc. While sitting there a man walked up to me and said, "She's ready to see you now," and escorted me through some large wooden doors into a sitting room with a fireplace. My mom was sitting in a chair and I took the opposite. I still remember the conversation we had crystal clearly. She forgave me for not answering the phone the last time she tried calling me, asked me about my brothers, asked me how school was going and some other things. While talking she abruptly stopped, looked up slightly and to the left, as if someone was calling her, and said, "My time's up, honey. I have to go now. Take care of yourself and your brothers. I love you all." I woke up then. The weird part is I told my brother about the dream in the morning, and he said he had a dream about our mom too the night prior. Slightly different setting but same conversation. I called my other brother in Reno, and he said he also dreamed of her that same night. I'm an agnostic leaning toward atheist. Not scary, just incredibly strange. I went skiing with some friends a few years ago. One of my friends, John, had lost his phone the previous week and was borrowing a phone from his other friend, Sarah. As we were in the car about to leave at the end of the day, John realizes he has lost Sarah's phone on the slopes. A few minutes later, I get a call on my phone from John's lost phone, which is actually Sarah's phone. The person on the other end of the line tells me they found the phone on the slopes and called the first number in the call log, me, to get it back to its rightful owner. I tell him where John lives and ask if he lives nearby to organize a pickup, and he tells me his daughter also lives at the same college. It turns out the kind stranger who picked up John's, Sarah's, phone was no other than Sarah's own father.